Unsuccessful attempts to secure an automobile, white restaurant owner Harry Loper offered his. Although he realized the danger involved, Loper believed it was his civic responsibility.
Only a few people at that time had automobiles, and Sheriff Werner knew that he was in jeopardy, and he arranged with the sheriff of Bloomington to have the man taken in there.
The sheriff duped the growing crowd by calling a false fire alarm into a fire station next door. While the crowd was distracted, he removed the black men from the jail with Loper's car.
I think it took the mob a little time to shift gears. You know, they started out not to attack the whole black community. They started out to get their hands on the 2 black men who were in jail for the murder and for the rape. Those guys were spirited out of town very quickly. And then the mob finds out, we'll never know how, that Harry Loper provided the automobile.
The mob headed for Loper's restaurant downtown. Outside of Loper's, Kate Howard, a well-known rooming house proprietress, taunted the mob to take action against the white restaurant owner. Mayor Roy Reese arrived and appealed for calm.
After Loper's restaurant, the mob goes to the levee. There, they attack every black-owned business there. In the process, they deliberately avoid white businesses, except for a few Jewish businesses.
Outnumbered authorities watched as rioters pillaged their way through the city.
Curse the day that Lincoln ever freed the niggers.
Abe Lincoln brought them to Springfield, and we'll run them out!
The rioters looted Fishman's pawn shop and stole guns. They smashed Chester Johnson's saloon and guzzled his liquor. The inebriated marauders had ruined 23 black and Jewish businesses before they reached the Badlands and the adjacent vice district called the Levee. There they attacked the terrified blacks and their homes.
We heard all the hollering and looked and saw the fire down. They said they was burning the Union Baptist Church and breaking in Otis Duncan's home there.
Most blacks ran for their lives as the rioters approached, but some stayed to defend their homes and businesses.
And my father, all day long, he might get a chance to nap a little bit, but all day and all night long, he had a gun on each shoulder, and he marched from where our store was on the 15th and Adams to our home where we lived at 1312 East Monroe, and that was back.
And these Negroes went up on top of the buildings, and they were armed. I don't know where they got the arms, but they had them. And as the crowd went down the street, they shot into the crowd from the top of the buildings, and they killed a great many white people.
A black barber named Scott Burton had helped his wife and children flee, then tried to defend his barbershop and home. The mob shot him 4 times, dragged his body several blocks, hung it, and riddled it with more than 40 bullets. A state militia unit confronted the rioters. Governor Charles Deneen had ordered their assistance 5 hours earlier after he'd learned about the mob's destruction. Troops fired warning shots over the frenzied crowd, which paid no attention. Next, they shot directly at the rioters, wounding several and scattering the rest. As black homes burned, troops dispersed throughout the city, and the worst of Friday's violent outbursts ended. The next morning, the sounds of military troops patrolling permeated the city. About 5,000 Illinois National Guardsmen were encamped throughout Springfield. News quickly spread about the rioters' violent destruction. Entire blocks of the Badlands were smoldering ash.
The most concentrated damages for the riot were in the Levee District and in the Badlands, which is, of course, where the majority of the victims lived. There was concentrated damage. One black business or black home after another was damaged and destroyed, unless the mob knew clearly that a white family occupied the business or the home.
Several thousand black residents had fled. Some were sheltered at the state arsenal, the governor's mansion, or in the homes of sympathetic whites, or in railroad cars.
So we was frightened, and my sister took us and we went over here at the railroad, here on 19th Street, and got up in the boxcar. And till they called the militia out. I just prayed for an Indian to come up there and back up there and pull us away somewhere.
Most blacks escaped by horseback, train, or foot, only to be threatened in the small towns outside of Springfield. They were warned to keep moving or else. Meanwhile, in Springfield, Mayor Reese ordered all saloons shut in an effort to prevent more trouble. But that became difficult to enforce, as enterprising merchants and saloon keepers tried to please the many curiosity seekers who came to see the damage. Overnight, the site of the riot became a major tourist attraction.
Get your race right souvenirs here, right here. Hey, I'll take one of those.
But the trouble wasn't over. That evening, before the ruins cooled from the night before, men congregated at the courthouse and went straight to the state arsenal. The crowd of several hundred wanted to enter the arsenal and confront the hundreds of frightened, homeless blacks sheltered there. But troops guarding the arsenal forced the crowd away. Frustrated and angry, the mob ran across the State House lawn to the nearby home of an interracial couple.
To Donegan's flash!
Although many interracial couples had fled, William Donegan, an 80-year-old black man with rheumatism, and his white wife had remained.
They say greater love has nobody that give up their life for a person, so he stayed there and protected his family. And I said, oh, my father slept like here, and the mob was right over there. I did see them.
They were rendering a piercing, yelling, cursing sound in a wild manner. By the time they reached Spring and Edwards, they spread out over the block, completely surrounding our home. Then a group crowded on our porch and rang the doorbell. They demanded a rope. Father told them to leave, that he would have no part in the outrageous action. Next morning, our clothesline was missing as well.
The mob surrounded Donegan's home. His wife met the mob and said no blacks were in the house. But someone spotted Donegan in the shadows.
Well, we saw him take him on out. But they tried to drown him. We had a trough out there in the front. They tried to drown him. They couldn't drown him because he was too tall. They beat him. Then there was an elm tree. Well, they hung him to this elm tree. And then that's where they left him.
The militia arrived shortly and dispersed the mob. They cut Donegan down and rushed him to St. John's Hospital, but it was too late. He died soon after. The next day, crowds tore off pieces of the tree where Donegan was hung. They wanted souvenirs. Although occasional acts of violence still occurred in the weeks following, Springfield's race riot was over.